In this video, I'm going to be installing the new end profile from Stairrods UK. This product is part of the innovative and award-winning aluminium range and has been specifically designed to accommodate an expansion gap of up to 12mm when installing floating floors. The end profile is available in black, brass, silver and antique and comes in lengths of 1.8 metres. There's 3 recess options available, 1mm, 3mm and 5mm, and each option allows you to colour match any floor as you install the flooring into the trim itself. The profile comes with a pre-applied contact tape in the recess and high adhesion foam tape to the rear to stick to any smooth surface. As with all Stairrods products, this has been introduced with design in mind. Not only is it practical, but it provides a bespoke tramline finish to any floating floor. When working with a floating floor system, an expansion gap has to be incorporated into the floor. Failure to do so will actually cause the floor to fail within time. So with this one, we've got an 8mm expansion gap with this, and we're going to need to cover that with the new Stairrods end profile. As you'll see, I'm going to be working around a curved shower tray with this one. 2 reasons. One is there's nothing really on the market that will cope with a curve. And 2, it keeps the video more interesting. There's nothing worse than a boring corner. So what I'm going to do first is take the full measurement of that curve. I can get that just up to that corner there and bring it around all the way to the other side. It's a lot more accurate than using a tape measure. Put a little mark on it just there. Then just cut that off. Now you want to keep this to one side. Just roll that up, put that there. What we're going to need to do is basically put some splices into the end profile to allow it to curve round. But what we need to do first is find out where that actually starts to sweep round. So just taking a straight edge, just roughly marry the straight edge up to the edge. It's starting to curve around about there. Use that point just there. I'll mark that onto the shower tray, and I'll also mark that onto the floor. It will become apparent in a minute why I'm doing these marks. So that's that curve there. So that starts to curve around about that point there. Again, a bit of masking tape. Get that back in position. That's round about. Just a couple of quick marks on this one. That one there. And then transfer that to the floor. Like so. Using a piece of offcut of the end profile, I'm just going to draw a quick line onto here, because we need the external and internal measurements. Firstly, to get the internal circumference, I'll just use a piece of thread up to the pencil line, working around to the other pencil line. Put a quick mark on the thread. Cut that piece off. I'll put that just up there, because what we don't want to do is start forgetting which piece is which. And then the outer circumference, I'm just going to work along the mark I've put on with the offcut of end profile. Again, this will work for any external circumference, whether it be a shower tray, a bullnose step. You could do an internal curve, a bay window, but it's bearing in mind that your splices are going to actually be at the front of the end profile. So it's something to discuss with the the client at the time of measure. Coming around just where the end of the mark is. Another quick pencil mark. Right, so now I'm going to measure the external and internal curves, and there's a little bit of calculus involved just to figure out where we need to actually splice the end profile. I'm going to work off the 100mm mark because it's more accurate than working off the end. Get the string in position, bring it down. That's actually measuring at 95, so minus your 10, that would actually be 85. That's my internal, and then my external, using the same process. Come off the 100mm, making sure you don't stretch the thread, and that's coming in at 97.6, so that would be 87.6. That's the two measurements, the internal and the external. I'm going to subtract my internal measurement from my external. So it's 87.6 minus 85 gives us 2.6. That's telling us that the splicing needs to be at 2.6 centimetres along the end profile. Now if I take my internal and actually divide that by 2.6, that's given us 32.96. If we round that up, it's going to come in at about 33 cuts to allow it to form a uniform bend around that. One thing to remember is when we're actually cutting the material out, we're taking away 2.6 centimetres, so we need to add that on to the overall length. So I've cut my first mitre already, and so all I'll do now is using my bit of thread I used for the overall measurement, just bring that to the end of the mitre, measuring down, and then remembering, once I get my mark on there, to allow for the waste material. So that is the circumference there, but I need to allow the extra 2.6 centimetres for the waste. Bring that into position. And what I've done is just cut myself a little MDF spacer to place underneath, otherwise the bar is going to be angled and it's going to give you a distorted mitre. Line that up. I can get that cut. Once I've got those mitres cut, I'm just going to measure down from the skirting board to where my curve begins. There's 17 inches on that. And I'll mark that onto the end profile. 17 on there. Just a quick mark, just to know where I can start splicing. I'm going to take a bit of tape, put it onto the mitre block, and remembering what the measurement was, it was 2.6. I'll mark that onto the mitre block. This just saves marking all the way along the bar, which is a time consuming process. So all I need to do now is get my first cut in there and bring the first cut down to that line and just working along, remembering that there's 33 cuts to allow it to bend around the curve. Right, now I've got my marks on there, I know where I'm starting and I know how far to move down, is what I want to do is just cut down to the start of the chamfered edge. Using a hacksaw, So that's the first cut there. All I'll do is move that down to there, and that allows me to keep the spacings accurate. Once you've got your cuts done, just give it a quick pre-bend, just to allow it to form around the curve a little bit easier, saves having excess material rubbing on the floor. Two things to remember when you're putting it into position. One is to make sure that the surface is clean and free from any contamination, and the second is just slide the end profile into position. You don't want to distort the profile. Just easing it around, and the tape gets a really good hold. Once you've got the curve in place, just bring your straight pieces in. Nice miter on there, and what that'll do is lock everything into place then. Get the other piece into place, remembering to still slide it into position, making sure not to distort the actual profile. As this is a wet area, we want to try and eliminate excessive moisture getting down onto the tape. So the use of a silicone sealant is advised. I'm using a translucent sealant. We've got the cuts in there. We want to be able to try and disguise them as much as possible without losing that back tram line. You could use a colour matched one, especially for the black end profile in the range. Again, just discuss with the customer what sort of colour they're going for. Silicone's applied, and all I'm going to do is just get my finger nice and moist and give it a bit of a finger job. Nice and gentle all the way around. Good duration. As our floor's been laid in the 45 and we've mitered the end profiles, I'm just going to keep that visual aesthetic going through the floor. So the end profiles, as I mentioned earlier, will actually receive either a 10mm rip cut or a feature strip. So just easing it into the gap. Some products you might need to preheat to make them softer, but with this product it will just easily fall into the channel.